Bro, Greninja was the one of the most dominating Pokemon, not only in Gen 6, but in Generation 7. Greninja was ridiculously powerful. With Protein, it was able to consistently change its type to whatever move it used, bro. This guy had a wild and crazy move pool back in the day. And it was the first Pokemon that could just switch types freely. You know, we had type-changing moves, like I think Porygon had Conversion, and then Kecleon had Color Change, but we never had something to this extent, which is just wild. But they really nerfed my boy. Like, Greninja was one of the most dominating and powerful Pokemon in OU. If you played OU in Gen 6 before this thing got banned, it was popping off in Gen 6. Gen 7, I have Gen 7 a lot more memorable just because Greninja was not banned from Gen 7 OU. But in my opinion, it was kind of broken. I feel like it was more broken in Gen 7 OU than Gen 6 OU, especially with Battle Bond Greninja. But they really nerfed this guy. They really nerfed him. You know, I know we're talking about Cinderace coming back, but when Cinderace came back, I feel like Cinderace came back and it's just been a good Pokemon in OU, to be honest. I haven't even seen that many Cinderaces in OU, which is crazy. Like, Cinderace definitely is not as popular and popping off as it used to. If Cinderace is struggling, I think Greninja is going to struggle even more. But we're going to get into that. This video is basically going to be focusing on Greninja's competitive guide. These are going to be the sets I think are going to be the most popular when it comes back. Which is in like less than a week. So look forward to my Greninja analysis video, or like my Showdown Live. I think when I use Greninja, I don't think I'm gonna go as in depth with the set I have. That's what this video is for. Maybe I'll go a little over it a little bit. But regardless, today we're gonna be taking a look at Greninja right here. It pains me because I loved using Greninja back. You just had to be in Gen 7, bro. My favorite thing in Gen 7 was to give it Hydro Cannon, the move it never uses. What is this? Hydro Cannon. It's the starters get. Excuse me. You know how you got like the Frenzy Plant, Blast Burn, and whatnot. Hydro Cannon is essentially the water type Hyper Beam, and what I would do is I would always run Battle Bond. I would always run Battle Bond, right, and then Waterium Z Hydro Cannon, insta kill something, and then I'd become Ash Greninja, bruh. Unfortunately, we'll get to Battle Bond, but unfortunately, Battle Bond doesn't do that anymore. But we're gonna go into Protein. Every set's going to use Protein. I mean, realistically, this is a Sash set. So, if you wanted to do something like Focus Sash Water Shuriken, bruh, have like a powerful Water Shuriken, that's like what? It'd be like a little over 20 base power. Pop off, I guess. But Protein is pretty much what you're going to want to run on this guy. I think going into Dark type first, you lead Taunt. I think that's going to be very helpful because you could taunt anything. You could taunt Great Tusk if it's going to set up. If Great Tusk is going to set up, spikes. I mean, Stealth Rocks, something like that. You can taunt it. I also think you could run Terraghost. I think Terraghost on Greninja is going to be nice just to spin block. But regardless, I think Dark is going to be good because you also can't. Grimmsnarl can't parting shot. He can't prankster you. Grimmsnarl can't touch you at all. Which it's gonna be interesting seeing Greninja back because we haven't seen Greninja in Gen 8. So it's gonna be interesting seeing its interaction with some of the new Pokemon. I think that's the thing I'm the most excited for. Just seeing it interact with like Toxapex, seeing it interact with Dragapult, but also with some of the even newer mons like Dondozo and whatnot. I think Grass Knot might be something you're always gonna run. Because I think against Dondozo, you're going to be doing big damage. But we'll get to the offensive set. But regardless, I think Greninja is going to... It has offensive capabilities. But you got to keep in mind, a lot of Pokemon are offensive. This is the most offensive meta, right? So if you're going to be running offensive Pokemon, you're going to want them to be really good at offense. While Greninja is good at offense, I think there are Pokemon that are better at being offensive. But... we'll get into those other Pokemon. Well, we'll get into that later, or as we battle with it, we'll see. Just speculation right now. But regardless, we're gonna have like, this is a lead set, essentially like Suicide Lead. You can set up spikes. I think Greninja's big role is I think it's the fastest Toxic Spike Pokemon next to Salazzle, but no one uses Salazzle. Oh no, it's faster than Salazzle. I lied. But regardless, Toxic Spikes is just going to be the thing. That's going to be this guy's gimmick for the most part. Just fast Toxic Spikes. You're essentially always guaranteed 2 layers because you set up spikes with 1, they attack you, then you set up spikes again unless something outspeeds you, so you'll get 1 spike up. But regardless, I think just getting the Toxic Spike up, those are going to be helpful against things like Dondozo, unless Dondozo's running like heavy duty boots. But Dondozo really, I don't think, runs heavy duty boots that much because it needs leftovers or its item to not be Toxic Spikes. Toxic, you don't see it around that much anymore unless a Pokemon's a poison type because they got rid of Toxic, which that's one of the nerfs Greninja had. It can't Toxic. You know, Greninja also lost Scald. It can't set up Scald Burn. So really, the only way it can status is Toxic Spikes. Greninja functions really well as a cleanup late game type sweeper because it doesn't have the most power in the world. It doesn't have a way to set up. Like, this guy doesn't have Nasty Plot, and it's crazy. I feel like with all the nerfs they gave it to this guy, the least they could have done was give Greninja Nasty Plot, but they didn't, which I think is just crazy. Like, let me just double check. Now, yeah, it doesn't get Nasty Plot, so that's just unfortunate. The only way it can set up is physically because it gets Sword Stance. But regardless, pretty much spikes, you can do that. If you taunt something, maybe you get this in against like a defensive Pokemon like Dondozo, or maybe even Clodsire. You can set up the spikes, but you got to be careful because Hatterene is running around a decent amount. I don't know if it is anymore. I think it was being used to counter Chiyu, but I know Hatterene was running around. You got to be careful. Is Hatterene OU? No, it's UU, right? Yeah. Oh no, Hatterene moved up to OU. Never mind, I take that back. It is OU, yeah, because people have been using that Magic Bounce. Magic Bounce is powerful. I can't wait to use Hatrim and like NU when NU comes out, by the way. But anyway, so that's the main set. This is, I feel like, just going to be the most common set, right? When it comes to offensive, you're going to have Choice Specs or Choice Band, right? Because of the way Protean works, the fact that he can't just switch instantly his types. Because the big thing about Greninja is he would set up, or he'd maybe come into a water type move. He'd come in Scald, set up spikes, and then U-turn out, get the buffed U-turn. That doesn't exist, okay? So with Choice Specs, essentially, you come in, you choose your strongest move based on the situation, and you become the type, and you just start doing damage. I think that, I mean, you got Extra Sensory and Ice Beam here for coverage. Really, this thing's special move pool is not all that. And because, you know, Greninja would run as a mixed attacker. Like, maybe you'd have Scald, Gunk Shot, U-Turn, Dark Pulse, Night Slide. Like, you could run mixed. And because, even though Greninja doesn't have the it doesn't have the highest attack stat, right? But because it could just switch its type, it would get the stab boost, which would kind of offset not having the best offensives in both stats, right? Because pretty much has a good special attack, an okay attack, but without boosting it, you know. The stab boost you would get from Protean by switching would be very helpful. But now it can't do that. It really is limited. Because Greninja would, I think it was one of the most definitive mixed attackers. But now it just, you pretty much gotta sign yourself into one. I mean, if you want to do both, I mean, pop off, I guess. I mean, it gets Chilling Water for what that's worth, but it's just, I don't think you'd ever want to run Chilling Water on Greninja because you're not a defensive Pokemon. You're going to be wanting doing as much damage as possible. Some like Chilling Water, some you wouldn't want to run. If you're going to Focus Sash, maybe you could do some with Counter. But regardless, I think that if you're doing Specs, this is pretty much what you're going to want. But actually, instead of Extra Sensory, I think Grass Knot is going to, wait, I think, honestly, I think Grass Knot would be better than Dark Pulse because Ice Beam is good for coverage. It's good. You can hit Clodsire. You can hit ground types. You can hit, I think, Great Tusk. But you can also hit Great Tusk with Extra Sensory. So Extra Sensory, I was going to debate getting rid of that, but nah, Psychic, you're going to want that. And then Grass Knot for Dondozo. So, I mean, if you want to run Dark Pulse, you can. But I think Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Grass Knot, Extra Sensory, I think this is going to be, if you run Specs, this is probably the premier set I'm going to use. when I start running my Greninjas. This is probably what I'm gonna use, to be honest. Um, just because you're gonna specs, because you don't have to worry about, like, switching your type. You're just gonna be powerful right off the bat, right? Now, these are gonna be the two premier sets, I think. You might see U-turn. It doesn't have flip turn yet. I think flip turn might come back. Like the move tutor moves from Isle of Armor. I think those are gonna come back in the DLC. But as of right now, I think these are the two premier sets. A set I'd like to give some shout out to is Focus Sash Swords Dance. Now, Greninja did get Trailblaze. A lot of Pokemon got Trailblaze. It's essentially Flame Charge but Grass type. The reason, I think, if you're gonna run a setup, if you're gonna try and sweep a Greninja, pretty much you can only do it physically. You can only run a physical. I mean, because the thing about special attacking Greninja is that there's no way for you to boost your stats except maybe Battle Bond, but we'll get to that in a minute. If Battle Bond is even, because we don't even know if we're getting Battle Bond. Because for all we know, this Greninja we get in this raid could have Protein, and there's no way to get Battle Bond. So, it gets Trailblaze, which I think is nice. I think you're going to be running Liquidation, Gunk Shot, Trailblaze, Swords Dance. Now, the thing about right now that makes it kind of hard to use a setup Greninja, I think specs might be better than setup, is just because the Dondozo, and Clodsire both have unaware. Also, if you run a physical Greninja, Skeledirge is going to come in and it's going to burn you. You have pretty much a bunch of unaware Pokemon that are really just so good defensively. But with Gunk Shot, you are allowed to hit things like Ting Lu. Wait, no, you can't. I keep thinking Ting Lu is a grass type. No, it's a ground type. Never mind. You don't want to run this against Ting Lu. I think honestly, you're with this. I think Gunk Shot, just because it's a high powered move. But really, you can run something like Low Kick if you're afraid of Ting Lu. I just think you're going to want to... I mean, also with this, because you don't want to become a normal type, because compared to Terra, Protein, when you switch type, you don't keep the stab of Water Dark. Like, if I Protein Grass, my stab is only Grass, and that's it. So, when you come in, you're going to want a Liquidation, just so you stay Water type. You become pure Water. That's what you're going to want to do first, right? And then from there, you can Swords Dance. But that makes this set not the best, to be honest, because the way Protein was nerfed makes it like if you Swords Dance, you're normal. If the first thing you click a Swords Dance, you instantly lose stab on a Water type move. You don't get any stab on any of your moves anymore, which I don't know. Terra Water might be the best thing, but honestly, well, we'll get. I think Battle Bond might be good on the Swords Dance set. Because you keep your Water Stab no matter what, and you can Swords Dance. I honestly think Battle Bomb might be better than Protein on this set. If you're running this, I mean, maybe you want a Low Kick first, but I just think it'd be better to just keep your Water Stab, because that's what you're going to be dealing the most damage with when you set up your Swords Dances, right? So Battle Bond might have use there, and if you get a KO with Battle Bond, you get that good attack boost. Now, with Battle Bond, it's going to be the only way Greninja has to boost his special attack, but it's only once per battle. It's essentially Moxie, but it's like a Shell Smash almost, but you don't lower your defensive. But I think it's more like Moxie. Yeah, but you only do it once per battle, so it's like once you do it, that's it. So essentially, like, there's no reason to switch out your Greninja or anything. Like, once you do it, that's it. You're gonna come in, you're gonna do your damage, and then you'll die, I guess. So with Battle Bond, if you want to run a special Battle Bond set, I say Mystic Water Hydro Pump is gonna be your best bet, just because that's gonna be the most damage you can get off. With Water Dark, Hydro Pump with Mystic Water does more damage unless you want to run choice specs. But specs Battle Bond is essentially pointless, because once you knock a opponent out, you can only click one move. So I mean, maybe if you want to run Life Orb Greninja was very popular back in the day as well, though. I think that was one of the most popular Greninjas. You run Life Orb mixed. I think that could be popular. I think that's something you could do with Battle Bond. But really, you're just going to want to get the quick kick you're going to want to get the KO as fast as possible. So that's how you're going to use Battle Bomb with Mystic Water. But you could also, like I said, with the Sword Stance set, I think Sword Stance benefits from Battle Bomb greatly. Especially because you could Sword Stance, right? You Sword Stance and then hit someone with Liquidation. Maybe you get a kill. But looking at this, honestly, in terms of offensive Water Stab, I think Quaquaval would be better at this. Because with anytime you get a hit with Liquidation, with Quaquaval's move. Let me pull up Quaquaval, who's the only starter we haven't used yet, but best believe he's coming. All 3 starters are still in OU. I think that's crazy. All of them have a good niche, I think. But with Quaquaval, you're gonna run Moxie. You could run Sword Stance or Bulk Up, and then what you're gonna run is like Aqua Step, and then it gets Close Combat. You run Close Combat. I wish you got Drain Punch, but it doesn't get Drain Punch. It gets and then you could run, I don't know, some last move. Did I just see Knockoff? Does this thing get Knockoff? Oh, I was going to say, I thought I saw Knockoff for a second. I was going to say, that's crazy. You could run Ice Spinner for coverage, to be honest, or Low Kick. This guy doesn't have the best moves in the world. But I think Ice Spinner is pretty much what you're going to run. And then this is essentially the better offensive, if you're going to run an offensive Water Sweeper, Greninja is not for that, but it can be used for that, I guess. But Quaquaval really just does that a lot better. It has a higher attack stat, and Aqua Step is just better, and it gets Moxie. And Moxie, you could do it again and again and again. And with Aqua Step, you're already boosting your speed. So, there's really no reason to use... As much as I was saying this is a potential set, there's no reason to run this. It's kind of like what I was going back to. Just because you can run things, pretty much Pokemon runs it. Like, for example, Grimmsnarl has a good attack stat, but no one's running a banded Grimmsnarl. Everyone's using it for Prankster. But the last set I guess you could use is maybe, like Chip. Let's say you got a Pokemon. It's going to sweep your team, but it only has 1 HP. I'd say a Loaded Dice Water Shuriken Greninja might be able to put in some work. Let's say, but I think this would only put in work if Pokemon are taking Chip. So I'm saying, like, if you got Pokemon that are, like, I'm thinking, like, you got Spikes up. What the hell? It says I completed a focus session. I don't know what that is. But let's say you got Spikes. Things are poisoned. You got Stealth Rock up. It's sort of the late game. I think maybe you could run Loaded Dice. And then you can get those nice kills on Pokemon that are low HP. But I think Specs might even be... I think you should just run Specs, though. Loaded Dice, Water Shuriken. I know that's going to be something that people run as like a meme. Watch Blunder or Pokemon or MV. One of the PokeTubers is going to do a video. Loaded Dice Greninja is broken. Just because I think it's going to be funny. But, Water Shuriken was also just better with Battle Bond. But, I don't think Water Shuriken gets the Battle Bond boost anymore. Because I think with Battle Bond, it guaranteed 3 hits. And, I think it increased in power. I don't remember. I gotta look that up. But, regardless, I think Greninja's gonna be cool when it comes back. It has potential. Like I said, even though it got nerfs, there's a lot of things it could do. I think the lead set's gonna be either its best set or the Spec set, because I think the Spec set will be able to check things like Clodsire and Dondozo, because Dondozo comes in, you read it right, you can hit it with a Grass Knot. That's going to be a 120 base power Grass type move. Dondozo doesn't have the best special defense. You'll do some damage with that. You get Clodsire and you extra sensory it, do some damage. Great Tusk is not living a Hydro Pump, I don't think. A Specs Hydro Pump, I don't think Great Tusk is going to live that, and Ice Beam for coverage. You can also run Dark Pulse, but I don't think, with Protein, I don't think Dark Pulse is going to be used as much for coverage. I don't think there's that many Pokemon it helps you with. But regardless, this is my Greninja. How are you going to use it? I think it's going to be cool when it comes back. I think it's going to stay OU for a little bit. But looking at the OU tier, to be honest, I can't see any of these Pokemon dropping off. I think maybe Water Shuriken could help check things like Volcarona and Iron Moth maybe. But just looking at this tier, like, something would have to drop down for Greninja to be in. And I think Greninjas would be better in UU than RU. I mean, than OU, to be honest. Like, looking at the UU tier, I think Greninja would do better here than the OU tier, but that's just me. I mean, Greninja's great, but I just think it's definitely not as good as it used to be. I mean, you see people talking about nerf Pokemon. I think Greninja is easily the most nerf Pokemon. Like, I'm not trying to be that negative. I think it has potential. I don't want to be that negative towards Greninja because I hopefully want to get a shiny one before the event. But regardless, I'm going to say Greninja is going to be fun. I think the raids are going to be fun as well. Hopefully not as annoying and tedious as Cinderace. But I'm excited for Greninja to come back. He was one of my favorite Pokemon to use in Gen 6 and Gen 7. And, you know, a lot of people like this guy. And it's unfortunate that a Pokemon that a lot of people like got this nerfed. Because Charizard keeps getting buffed every generation. Or they try to buff Charizard every generation. I think Charizard was a little nerfed this generation. But regardless, they try to buff Charizard every generation. Greninja, they see its popularity, and then they nerf it. Like, if they got enough protein, the least they could have done was kept Battle Bond the same. But now they got rid of Battle Bond. I mean, it's gonna be. I think it's interesting to see. I think Greninja's gonna stay OU for maybe like the first couple months. But it's gonna be interesting to see how Greninja, if it stays. It's definitely not Uber material. There's literally no reason for Greninja to be Ubers because, like, there's nothing like, I think Toxapex walls Greninja unless it's running extra sensory. Like, Greninja's countered by a whole lot, and if Greninja doesn't have extra sensory or Grass Knot, it's not touching Cloud's Eye or Dondozo. I say Dondozo, but anyway, yeah, I mean, I think I went over Greninja. Let me know y'all sets in the comments below how y'all think y'all gonna run Greninja. But regardless, T-Flame, this has been a nice discussion video talking about Greninjas. Love Greninja, but you know, it's gonna be interesting to see how this guy, if he can, you know, if he can really make an impact. I think he might just get new toy syndrome. Everyone's gonna be excited to use Greninja because he hasn't been back in a minute. But dude's just really been nerfed. Dude has really been nerfed. Just taking a peek at offensive water types like Quaquaval. I'd argue Nasty Plot Word of Wash might be a better offensive water type than Greninja. And look, there's no special attacking offensive water type, except the only one was Iron Bundle, but then it got banned. But that's because it had Freeze Dry. There's not really a bunch of special. I don't see any special attacking water types except Clydesser. I mean, hey, hopefully maybe they decide we're gonna give Greninja Nasty Plot, and that would be great if Greninja got Nasty Plot. I think that would save Greninja. I think if Greninja got Nasty Plot, we'd be looking at a pretty good Pokemon. But without Nasty Plot, I think Greninja just lacks the ability to really establish itself this generation as a top OU threat. I predict at some point Greninja goes down to UU. Maybe it gets quick banned there, but I just think I can't see this thing staying OU. But I don't know. This has been enough, right? I will love y'all. I'll see y'all in the next video. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Love y'all. Peace.